Let's get into the next discussion now. Nigeria's 2017 budget was recently signed by the acting president, but the dust from the alleged padding of the 2016 budget is yet to settle.
Last week, former Chairman House Committee on Appropriation Abdulmumin Jubril was at the head office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to explain in detail issues surrounding the budget padding controversy. There are indications that other members of the House Representatives invited to answer some questions by the anti-graft agency may not make an appearance.
Now, House Minority Leader Leo Ogo, who acknowledged receiving a letter of invitation from the anti-graft agency, says he will honor or he will not honor the request because it did not follow the proper channel, writing him through the leadership of the House. But the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, and two other top officials, on the other hand, say they have not received any formal invitation from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over budget padding allegations.
The House, in a letter through the clerk to the EFCC, said the proper process is a request for the release of Ogo or any member through the Speaker, and until that is done, no member of the House invited in the process of the ongoing investigation will appear before the agency. The Commission says it is weighing its options on whether or not to accept the condition. About 13 members of the House of Reps, including 4 principal officers, have been shortlisted in the first batch of those slated for questioning on the alleged budget padding.
All right, that's the background to this discussion right now. We have joining us in the studio an international lawyer, Femi Aino. Femi, it's good to have you join us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Right.
Good morning.
We Nigerians, to a great extent, had kept 2016 budget and the issues of the padding behind them, but this new development now seemed to bring everything back to the fore with the realities of how things went, unsettled investigation and inconclusive investigation at the past. When you look at all of this back and forth, what really plays in your mind how the system is functioning?
No, it's a very corrupt system. It's an ineffective system, and it's a dubious system. A system that allows criminals to get away. It's not an effective system. A system that sees criminals as the big shot in the society. It's not a good system, and it is not a system one shouldn't be proud about. And even though you're supposed to be proud of your country, but
be patriotic.
To be patriotic, thank you. But I have an issue here. If I'm here in your studio now. If I get home and they said, oh, police are looking for me because somebody said they lost their 20 naira mobile phone and they've given a description of somebody who resembles me, the first thing I'm going to do is just to go to the police and say, look, as at that time, I was in TVC. I have nothing to hide. But if I have something to hide, what I'll do is just to rush to Ikeja High Court and say Chapter 4 of the Constitution says you cannot arrest me. My fundamental right is going to be violated.
Okay.
And then I start stalling the investigation and what have you. And most of these people, they will go to prison for a very long time if care is not taken. Because this is an opportunity, if you are innocent, and an investigator, either EFCC, police, and other special investigators need you. The first thing you do, first at sunrise, is to go there and explain yourself. We'll probably let you go home. But if you have something to hide, there's a possibility you will say this is not the proper procedure. Let us ask to go through this, then this and that. Well, it may well be you have immunity one way or the other. But let's leave that. And I'm glad you mentioned that the EFCC said that they are weighing all the options. Fair enough. You don't want us to invite you through the House because we didn't follow the proper procedure. Right, we will knock your door and pick you up.
Okay, before we go into all that, let's look at the bone of contention, yes, actually, please. The word pardon.
Yes.
The House of Reps, senators will go to the law and code section 80 subsection 4 and say, okay, this is what the law says. Yes. It is in order for me to tinker with the Constitution. And even just this last budget, there were issues of some tinkering. Really, where do we stand on that now?
You see, you have to be very careful when people try to engage in creative interpretation of the Constitution. And yes, Section 80 says no money should be spent from the consolidated fund without any appropriate law. And Section 4 says, well, you have the power to make law for good governance. And the motivation for you in making that law is to ensure there is peace, orderliness, and good government in the country. That's the motivation. And now somebody is saying, yes, come down, come and explain yourself. Look at it, let's look at it this way. You are a doctor. We allow you to use siren because it's a privilege in case of an emergency. Does that mean if you see an old woman trying to cross the road, the best thing you do is to abuse the privilege by running her over because you are running into another emergency? The law says, okay, you have to scrutinize whatever expenditure is presented to you by the government. And in scrutinizing that expenditure, if they said, look, we are going to spend 240 million on Lagos-Abeokuta Road, you can ask them, come and defend it as part of your anxious scrutiny. Then you can say, look, this is too expensive. Instead of 240, I think you should spend 100 because, you know, we are not convinced. That is what the Constitution says you should do. Does the Constitution say if they have said they are going to spend 240, you should increase it to 500 million because the difference between that amount is going to go to some people's private pocket. And then you will turn around and say, yes, I'm a legislator. The Constitution allowed me to do all this and scrutinize. It is an abuse of process. And this is not coming here. Let me just give you an instance.
Is it because this one is in figures? Because if you look at the laws they also make in some bills, sometimes they expunge some part of those laws. Sometimes they expand on some parts of those laws.
Yeah, that is part.
Is it because this one is in figures that we are working?
No. I take your point, but can I respectfully ask you to take my point?
Okay.
They have the power to amend,
yes,
to repeal, enlarge, and repeal laws. That comes there.
Yes.
But what we are saying here is budget padding because you are inflating figures. That is a criminal offense. And the point I'm making is this. Look, this parliamentary privilege which you enjoy, you must not abuse it. Okay. Look at what happened in United Kingdom. The MPs, some of them, you know, if you incur expenses, you have the right to take the money back from whatever budget you have for the parliamentary budget, let's call it that way. And now you realize some people hiring pornography video, bringing the receipt to come and claim the money back. You see some members of parliament submitting fake invoices. What happened to them? It's just there in the news. All of them were charged to court and they were convicted. They came up with this dubious argument that, look, we are parliamentary, this and that. But does that give you the power to bring a fake invoice? No. Does that give you the power where you hire a video, a pornography video, and then you come and claim the expenses? It's not going to happen. And the earlier they pick these people up and let them come and explain. All right,
in this situation now, because the legislators, even in the 2017 budget, they talked about the issue of we have the right to do all of this as it's our constitutional right. No. Is it time to seek judicial interpretation to the right of the legislature or even the National Assembly to up the figures or down the figures or expand or even infuse new projects?
I think that's just like going on a fishing expedition. There is no constitutional issues there. The issue is that we know you have the right to scrutinize the budget. What we are saying is that you don't have the right to inflate the figures for your own selfish hand. And if you think you have that right, let's just, for the sake of argument, and if you know you have that right, and somebody wants to charge you to court, if it's me, the first thing I would do is to go to that person and say, look, quickly accelerate it. Let me go to the court. Then when I get to the court, I'll go in the witness box. I'm not going to say I have no case to answer because that's the trend. I'll go in the witness box and then I will raise all these arguments from now to the end of the heart and I will go home as a free man. And there's another point because I listened to your discussion with Tokumbo. Is this, you see, the problem is that when you take people to court, because you did ask him one question, and they are found not guilty, and the court just set them free, either Evans and all these politically exposed people. It's not that they didn't do it, okay? They are criminal. It's not that the judge might say, well, it's quite obvious he has done it. But what the court is just saying by finding them not guilty is that the evidence presented doesn't add up. and you cannot sustain. And what we need to do, if you're going to fight this corruption, and I align myself with one of his line of thought, that, look, do not be in a hurry to bring these people to justice. Take your time, investigate them. You put what they call a cast iron case. And once you do that, then you get their conviction. They are going to start, you see, that's why some of them are called Teflon characters. You know, it's like all those cooking pots that, you know, no matter how long you use it, it doesn't stick. It doesn't get burnt. So you cannot stick the offense to them. So you need to take your time and investigate and make sure you convict them as soon as practically possible. But by the time you do carry out a shoddy investigation, you will get what we are getting now, whereby some of them will make a no-case submission and then they will get away. But in their heart of hearts, something is telling them that I did it, but I got away.
And another part of the law, maybe they are circumventing it or not, is the Privilege Act. They say, okay, section 24, section 30 is okay. This is what I've done on the floor of the National Assembly. I'm not liable to be prosecuted for that.
Yes, so because you have the House, the Privileges Act that says anything done in the floor, it's a privilege. So that gives you the right to take a knife and then you stab a fellow member. So
it's a technical immunity.
Do you understand me? It is an abuse of that immunity. I agree, there's a parliamentary immunity. But what I don't agree with, that doesn't cover your criminal conduct. And if there is an allegation, you see, it's quite disturbing. And this takes my breath away a lot. You pass law creating the EFCC that they should investigate the financial crime, isn't it, by section 6 and 7. And then the EFCC says, so we want to investigate you. And you are now saying, no, you can't investigate me. You can't just, at least there's a balance that, look, you can't be the lawmaker and the lawbreaker. Why don't you just go if you know you are innocent? I'm not saying you shouldn't exercise your constitutional right, but when we charge you to court, you will have opportunity to raise all those arguments. And then the judge will listen and make a pronouncement one way or the other.
All right, let's even put EFCC on the burner here. How challenging is it for the EFCC to handle this case when it comes to their capacity?
No, there are cases. You mean this particular one? Yes, you see, without being specific, let's just look at everything. Let's have a global perspective into it. You see, the problem I have with the EFCC, they are twofold. Number one is that either they want to please the paymaster by making sure that, to show that they are working. And in doing that, sometimes they try to move ahead of things somehow. One, people will make noise, no doubt, because that's the Nigerian nation. But what you need to do is to say, look, do not go with the flow. Just take your time. Carry out a thorough investigation.
And don't play to the gallery.
And don't play to the gallery, I'm very grateful. But then that is one aspect. So you carry out. And also, this idea of one or two lawyers becoming the face of the EFCC, they are the one who will be in Lagos, tomorrow they are in Abeokuta, next week they are in Abuja. Then it begs the question, when did they have the time to sit down and prepare? Because don't forget, these people, they are high-power people, they are criminals, they have a war chest which they are going to use to fight you. So you need to prepare and put a cast iron case. If you feel
and you are the good lawyers who are dedicated to that case.
And if you as the lawyer, you feel that, look, I have issue with this. Can you go and investigate this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Let's not go to court now because the evidence doesn't add up. Yes. Then once you are ready, then you go. Even if you carry out this investigation, because I think Momini says, don't arrest them until you finish your investigation. Well, you can even arrest them and put a condition they must not interfere with witnesses. You understand? And also, you know, because sometimes I'm really disturbed about this. You are investigating somebody because he laundered money here and there. Why don't you get in touch with the solicitor abroad who help him to purchase that property, to get the conveyancing file, to see how he transferred the money to you? It's a very simple exercise.
They've just signed a bill now on that where we can collaborate with people outside.
You see, let me tell you, my sister, you see, this country, one thing I notice is that there are so many people on the wrong medication. And once that medication is working in their body, they come up with a wrong decision. And those who are on the right medication, once they run out of medication and they can't get an appointment with their doctor, they start misbehaving. Once you leave here, before you get to Ikeja, see how many people will be throwing tantrums, arguing with each other just over trivial issues. Let me tell you, if you are collaborating with all these people, private investigators to do this, you're going to pay a lot. Because even, you know, I don't want to advertise, one has had the privilege of using some of these private investigators on the case before. They charge £300 an hour. And if they travel from London to Switzerland, and let's say London to Australia, it will take you 12 hours in the plane. And they will charge you 1 hour. For each 1 hour, they will charge you about 300 or 250 pounds. So at the end of the day, by the time they bring the bill and they recover the money, there is nothing left. Why don't you strengthen your institutions and your investigators so that they can travel and carry out all this investigation? And at the end of the day, by the time they come up with this report, some of these things are things you can easily get. And also, if care is not taken, you're going to sign a contract with them. Argument will start by the time they present you the bill, and they will drag you through the court. And if care is not taken, there's going to be another problem there. And then you come home and say, look, if I know it's going to be like this, why did I sign it? So I don't think this is the right approach, the best approach. And if you are not with me on that as my best point, my better point is that go and recruit people who have the experience. You can hire one consultant who will guide your workforce, and they give you the right direction how you are going to recover all these loot. Because to me, this agreement is just like a job for the boys. That's my thought.
Let's look at some of the charges now. In particular, Leo Ogo has been accused of circumventing the law in terms of constituency project, yes, that he used his company to front for such project, to execute such project. And you now ask yourself, what was Babachary Lawal accused of?
Who's that?
But the secretary, the former secretary to the suspended.
The IDP.
What was he accused of in the first instance? Of that he used his company to do some work that, you know,
what would say is the same kind of crime?
Yeah, Public Procurement Act that has been breached. Is that not what is going on there?
No. You see, in the criminal context, we can't say like must be treated alike. We have to be very careful, otherwise so many people will get away. You know, and we need to try and be very careful in the sense that I know the similar what happened to the former secretary and the Leo Ogo man. You see, these are part of the problem. If you said you are a senator,
yes,
we give you a constituency allowance or whatever so that you can benefit the life of the electorates or people, your own people. And then you set up a company in order to carry out that work, and you have the Privileges Act. You say if you have a pecuniary interest in a matter, you must declare it. Then you have a problem there, and there's a possibility that if he has all those, the nut on both of my points is, if you know you have a defense, you have a reasonable explanation, and an investigator is asking you come forward, we want to question you, then go there. Don't worry about the procedure. And then, if you are innocent, we let you go home. If not, we bring you before the...
All right. Now, apart from you, because you mentioned earlier on that EFCC may not be going about this the right way, but let's look at the precedence of things. EFCC has been on ground for for decades now, as the case may be, case after case until now. Do you think EFCC is really growing the way it's supposed to be, being an institution, building itself into being an institution rather than just being an agency?
Well, to be fair, because you know, one has to look at the both sides of the coin. I think they are improving, because years ago when I read about their cases, I just say, look, how come they can't just use their phone and do a cell phone analysis? And they are using that cell phone analysis now to put on their cases, because don't forget, if I send you a text now, even though I delete that text, it doesn't mean it's not in your phone. If I'm investigating you for a criminal offense and I give it to the expert, they do what they call a cell phone analysis. I can go through all tests sent as far back as 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and I can use that to put a cast iron case against you. And that is what they are doing. That's why they were able to charge some lawyers that they've been communicating with some judges, this and that, because you know, I think what they did was to hire one external person who actually said, look, you can do a cell phone analysis. And the police are even doing the same now. They were able to use the telephone mast to track where you are at a particular point in order to get the kidnappers. But by and large, there's still a problem about publicity. Look at the Evans man. If I'm a judge today and you bring that Evans to my court, within a day I'll just set him free because he won't get a fair trial. My mind has already been poisoned by the media, people convicting him. You go out there and ask people, do you think Evans is guilty? I'm telling you, out of 10, 9 will tell you, yes, he's a criminal because the police have already been convicted on arrival. And if you bring people like that to my court, I'm sorry, I'll just set him free. It's as simple as
all right, I'm afraid this is where time will permit us to take, this is farthest we can go now. Femi Aino, international lawyer, thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.